Very good morning. On behalf of Sushant University, it's my honor to welcome you all to a two-day academic leadership program, Future Models and Strategies. On this extremely relevant theme, we look forward to deliberations involving diverse stakeholders, voices not often heard, and such a coming together can bring about possibilities and path-breaking models and practices to the fore. Education system has a huge role and responsibility, more so in the disruptive times today, to help manage, replenish, and build sustainable career cultures and empower lives. The implications for the future of leadership are profound, hence the effort to re-examine, redefine, realign, and reimagine it. With voices from the students, parents, industry, other sectors, we look forward to a powerful and engaging views and interactions and perspectives. May I now please invite Dr. Vibhuti Sachdeva, Dean, School of Art and Architecture, Sushant University, to elaborate on the concept of this program.
Thank you, Dr. Shelley. We have been looking forward to this for a long time. This is the last of what has been a truly magnificent series on leadership and futuristic models. This was conceptualized by our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Sir, Sushant University, and we've had such an amazing experience and invaluable insights into how to take cognizance of what's happening today and how to make a better future for all of us. So since it's the last in the series, I see it as a dessert of a wonderful meal we've had. So we've had a staple diet. So this is a dessert which should be sweet in its flavor. It should be joyful in its mood and optimistic in its effort. That is how I see it. And if I could have the poster for our series, please. Thank you. Why I wanted to project this poster is it is very indicative of what we are doing in the 2 days we have, today and tomorrow. If you see in the poster, we have shared our titles, we have shared our names. We are a bunch of people who have passion and dedication in common. Be it our leader of the university, be it our graphics team, be it our faculty or organizers, be it our parents, be it our students, be it our industry. So you see, we are gathered here without assumptions, without preconceived notions of who we are, where we come from, to truly get together to work towards a better future for us. And that is why we chose just pictures of people who are truly united towards a common goal. The second thing I wanted to point out, apart from the fact that we've called it Unheard, is the diagonal angularity of the text. This, in a way, signifies things, hopes, dreams, fears that need hearing, but also need alignment. And that is what we are projecting here through the graphics. And so we hope to achieve that towards the end, where we continue to be even more united as a group of people, but also beautifully aligned for the wonderful future that lies ahead. The current ongoing pandemic has thrown open a lot of questions related to our roles and responsibilities, at least as leaders in the field of education. It has shown us the importance of interconnectedness in the world and impact of micro decisions on larger ecosystems. The current ways of working, living, socializing have to be rethought. What is the purpose of education? What is the nature of work that is required in the world? And what is the nature of life's journey and the goals? All of this has to be revisited. What is the way forward? Do we include students' voices, teachers, parents, administrators, staff, support groups, and communities. How do we flatten the pyramid of responsibility and accountability to establish multiple centers of learning and co creation to prepare and nurture the minds of the future generation? Conventionally, one's life cycle has been divided into childhood, adolescence, adulthood, retirement. This framework provides us very short period of independence between being cared for and caring for others. Can this be rearranged differently? Can one jumble up work, study in more enriching ways? Can the resource of mature age group be tapped into? What can be the new models of existence in this world? Teaching profession has evolved, and the role of the teacher is now that of a guide. They have to be open to learning from students who may be in some areas, such as digital technology, way ahead of them. So the identity of both the teacher and students is merging. Does that mean this will affect what we teach, how we teach it? Lastly, a task that preoccupies most of our work time leads to the question, is policing an efficient tool of leadership? Incentives and penalties can blur our focus on quality education and its objectives. What is the next gen toolkit of leadership strategies? With this, I hope and I am actually very sure that all of us are going to be enriched by the insights of this wonderful and imaginative conversation, a group of conversations that we've lined up for you. All the best. Thank you. Over to you, Shelley.
Thank you, Dr. Vibhuti, for that elaboration, very explicitly done, and thank you very much. So now we move on to the first session, and the theme of the session is Disruptive Times, which begins with the voices of the students, Shaurya Chauhan and Anjura Khatri. They're there with us. And next, we will hear the views of a parent, Ms. Namrita Kurmi. The session then moves on to understand the industry view, which is represented by Dr. Ankita Singh. And after listening to the individual views, a panel discussion will ensue. Post that, we look forward to audience interaction in terms of receiving their questions, understanding their perspective. And then we conclude the first session of the program. I would now like to request Shaurya Chauhan to begin this session. And he's a recent graduate from Sushant University, a registered architect, urbanist, a professional with Indian Green Building Council. And he has, as a student, represented the university at international forums, and he's currently engaged in devising open source development models for the contemporary city. Shaurya Chauhan, welcome.
Thank you, Shelly ma'am.
Over to you.
Hello, am I audible to you?
Yes, absolutely. Please go ahead.
All right, great. An infinite time loop. He was stuck in an infinite time loop. At 6 a.m., his eyes would open with an optimism for an exciting new day. By 2 p.m., it would be reduced to hope of finding something new beside his isolation all day. But at 10 p.m., all hope would give way to desperation for a way out of the walls of his house. The walls that were closing in on him every day, threatening to crush him alive. How long before he got out of this cage? Dean Dr. Vibhuti Sachdev, distinguished panelists, ladies and gentlemen, don't be alarmed. A month after the first lockdown came into effect in India, this particular college student found himself in uncharted territory. With the television pouring out frightening news all day and his lifelong friends no longer there to comfort him at all moments, nothing felt normal. But over the past 15 months, life has made him author his own manual for survival, consisting of two major questions. Two questions that he wants to share with you today. Question 1. What am I doing? The roads lay deserted, and police were cracking down upon the people who dared to venture out of their homes. Amidst this chaos, though, he had been invited by Reba to represent the university. He was desperate to complete his work. So, he lied. First, he lied to his parents, and then to the police officers who stopped him en route to the study site. But upon reaching his destination, he realized what the real lie was. The shops were closed as expected, but the streets were lined up by a bangle seller, by a second hand product seller, and innumerable others. They were not there looking to escape from the walls of their boring homes. They were there because they did not have four walls to call a home anymore. In their desperate attempts to sell him their products, he saw reflected his own lack of perspective. As he finally caught his privileged self surrounded by luxuries, he asked himself for the first time, what am I doing? Question 2. Why am I doing this? How dare him? Can't my father see I am working on the Central European time while living in the Indian Standard Time? Does he not see the struggle, the prestige of working with ISOCARP? All he ever does is order groceries and then order us around the house. I don't even want to see his face anymore. The next day, his wish came true. His father was diagnosed with COVID 19. As he desperately searched the internet for any and every piece of medical advice, as he comforted his worried mother, and as he looked for a hospital bed, just in case, he saw their critical roles. The role of his parents in shielding him from the heat of the COVID sun, the role of his friends in strengthening him to face the odds, and the role of his college teachers in helping him see the bigger picture at all times. As his father finally came out of isolation, and as he found himself again arguing with him, he stopped himself just for a moment and asked himself, why am I doing this? 25th of March 2020. I don't really remember this date for the beginning of our nationwide lockdown. Rather, I remember it as the date when my intricately carved plan for the future got thrown out of the window. It is the date when he, my own future obsessed self, turned into me, a more present oriented person. In fact, most of my batchmates have seen a radical shift in their lives. From meeting the same friends every day to making new friends online, from being physically limited to a place to appreciating the vastness of the virtual space. And most importantly, from being over optimistic for the future to appreciating the richness of the present. Maybe it's not a time of disruption after all. Maybe it is just a time of reconciliation between the privileged and the disadvantaged, the old school and the tech savvy, and our past with our future. With the how of things changing as rapidly as the mutations of coronavirus, maybe we can reassess what we are doing and why we are doing it. I believe it is an unprecedented opportunity to recalibrate our lives, one that should not be taken for granted. Thank you so much. Back to you, Shelly ma'am.
Thank you very much, Shaurya Chauhan. Beautifully expressed, articulate, almost poetic fashion. You presented the situation which we all faced similarly, and you've also thrown up questions. Thank you very much, Shaurya Chauhan. Next, in the segment of student voices, we have Anjura Khatri. She's a student of Sushant University, a second year student of Bachelor in Architecture. And she's already authored two papers and continues to do so. And her clear interest lies in conservation, urban architecture. Anjura Khatri, let's hear you now.
Good morning, everyone. Am I audible to
Yes,
everybody else?
absolutely. Go ahead. Thank you.
It is an honor to be a part of the seminar, which talks about and is giving platform to, voices of people from different walks of life and ages, to hear each side, understand and experience what they have felt during these disruptive times. On my part, to be able to do any justice to the experience of a novice college student, I wanted to recall the first few days when the college closed down. We were very elated about the possibilities of the days off in the uncertainty because everything new feels a little exciting, albeit we had no inkling of what was actually happening. The devastation hadn't reached us yet. The times ahead were confusing and jarring, with learning how to accommodate and adapt to the distance mode of learning, along with our teachers, while the world outside our walls closed within itself. People were held within walls and hidden behind masks. I've always recognized people by their eyes. During conversations, that's where I would look. They say that eyes are the window to the soul. So when I would be speaking to somebody, I would observe how their eyes shifted when they spoke about certain topics. That was my favorite thing to do out in public. I would observe people. I I carry a small notepad and a pen in my pocket anytime I go outside. And when I used to travel from college to back home, or if I was going anywhere, I would, if a stranger would catch my eye, I would, take out my notepad, draw a little cartoon on it, and hand it to them in hopes that it lightens up their day and amuses them a little bit. I had no idea I was going to miss it this much. When the semester ended in the summer, I dreamed of the underground metro stations of the Yellow Line. I could smell the fumes that traveled in the tunnels, step on the concrete floor, and felt the wind as it gushed by me when the train arrived on the platform. What was once the most dreaded task of my day, I was now dreaming about it. How funny. We all came to realize how much we missed each annoying aspect of our public life. In this time, I found my admiration drifting towards the tenacity of the human race to find beauty in these small times. I saw all the people around me picking up on new hobbies or practices that they could work on at home. Whether it was speaking a new language, learning a new instrument, making art, everyone started to get to know themselves, and that is what I was most thankful for. In a fast paced life, people wouldn't get the time to learn about themselves. Everyone is in such a hurry to get from one place to another, one stage of life to another, one accomplishment to the next, and no one was stopping and wondering about themselves. If I asked you, what was your favorite color? I'd say a 50-50 chance that you would have an answer for sure. When someone is getting to know you, typically they would ask you, what is your favorite color? And then you will sit down and wonder, okay, what color do I like out of the colors that I know? But the real question is, would you have asked yourself the same question? Would you have wondered if nobody else asked you? It's as people questioned and discovered, a stronger sense of community was built within, with social media being our connecting bridge during this disruptive time. They shared their discoveries and stories online for the rest of the world to see. People came together to relate and to discuss, to elate, everything they learned. This is the same community that during the second wave of COVID was called on for resources, helping medical shops, hospitals, and they called each and every number they found on social media to confirm whether resources were still available or not. Updating Excel sheets, sending links, writing articles, petition pleads, and everything they could do in their power. The second wave reached all of us. It was in every home. At least one person you knew was either positive or, in my parents' case, had passed away due to the virus. Almost everyone I knew was going through a similar experience of what I went through, a sudden growth in the trauma of the second wave. Until then, I had thought a mask and a sanitizer will protect me from COVID. I don't have to worry about, what's happening as long as I keep myself protected. I didn't know what to do when it started striking home. It struck like a domino of bad news. My father fell ill, then it was my grandmother, my grandfather, then finally my mother. A domino of all the functioning adults in the household falling sick. Uh, in this chronology of bad news, a few days before my mother fell ill, which was also the day before my grandfather passed away, my mother sat my sister and I down, and spoke to us that we have to prepare for the worst case scenario, where we are the only ones who are safe. We have to isolate. We have to keep ourselves healthy and look after ourselves, to keep the house functioning. My sister is still in high school. She's very young, and I am a novice adult. I'm very new to this. So when I saw the worst case scenario unfolding, I went into a sort of a shell where, putting all my comforts and security aside, I decided to perform and provide my best for my parents. I would run around all day, only resting on the sofa briefly under the fan before I would go to another medical shop or another hospital to survey whether the medicines had arrived or not. I'm not able to relay the experience entirely or as much as I would like to in its essence, is because I didn't experience it. I was just running around doing odd jobs all day, checking up on everyone, taking their temperatures, oxygen levels, keeping track of hospital beds, keeping the family informed who could not visit because of all the travel restrictions, keeping the school informed of my inability to submit my assignments or my late work or when I'm missing class for each teacher, and making sure my sister was safe through it all because she's also in school and she's such a young child who should not have to go through the same trauma. So, this was how the nightmare passed. They are the longest 2 weeks anybody has ever have to go through. And when you notice that things are starting to go back to normal, you realize a month has passed. Recently, a relative asked me whether I was afraid of the possible consequences of the possibility of my parents dying, which is something that I have to come face to face at this point now. It's something which is a real topic of discussion now. Um, he asked me what were my thoughts when I was going through this. So, again, it was a moment of self realization. I hadn't thought about it until he asked me. So, in that moment, I told him I wasn't thinking about what would happen. I was focused on what is happening and what I had to do. My days were divided with what I had to do at what time. All I could think of was I have to take care, I have to be there. And that is how we came out of it. So, my biggest learning through this entire 2 years have been that, staying in the present, working for the moment, helps you to stop overthinking about the future consequences. Because if you let your brain wander, sometimes it can go to some really dark places. But when you focus on what you have currently and you cherish the times that you have, it seems a little less gloomy. So now at this stage, we await for the world to open to us once again, looking for a chance to experience those same mundane activities again. Talk to other people about how much you loathe it or how much you love going on picnics and making new memories. And uh, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjura Khatri. Thousands of people can relate, connect with your voice, your expression, your sentiments. Yes, we are looking for answers. We're searching for probables. It's not easy, we understand. But really appreciate and thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. Now we come to the segment where we are going to hear the parents' voice. And representing the parents' voice is Namrita Khurmi. She's a qualified counselor and author. And she handles and works and is trained to handle the mental suppression and the reactive state of mind by helping people not staying stuck in the moments of past or in future. Welcome, Namrita Khurmi.
Hi. Thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. And it was actually wonderful listening to the students. And yes, it has been quite a difficult time for everybody. So the topic is actually quite relatable, disruptive times. Disruptive times is actually derived from the word disruption, which actually means disturbance or problems which interrupt an event, activity, or process. This is exactly what happened because of the pandemic. A very difficult time for humanity. So many lives gone, so much loss. We have seen what maybe another 10 generations will not see, hopefully. But in this whole disruption, we missed seeing something. The whole world was put on a pause, or rather a big stop. A stop to not just the livelihood and humanity, our lives, but it also put a stop to the chaos and the randomness which has been going on around us forever. All of us were made to stop, step back, and actually look. Yes, forced to stop and look, but made to just look, pause, and see. We have been controlled by environment that we completely never thought about ever looking, observing, and perceiving. All of us were living in a life of an automatic city. I say city, where everything is done automatically without any intention sometimes, or I can say most of the times. Like get up, work, come home, eat, sleep, and then again repeat. If I were to tell you, this condition of pandemic made us stop and actually look at ourselves, our environment, our homes, our families, our friends. We were forced to live together 24 by 7 inside our luxury boxes, our homes. And this made me connect to a brilliant analogy of life called the cycle of action. Now, what is life? It is actually a creation followed by survival, that is living, and followed by destruction, that is death. So, exactly if you could see it right here. This is what is apparent, right? This is what appears to be. Now, for a moment, can we look at life from another viewpoint? If I were to tell you life is creation, followed by another creation, and followed by another creation against destruction. For example, a house is built from scratch. That's creation. You live in it and you make it more beautiful each day. Another creation. Then it is destroyed and a new house is created. Another creation. And this analogy can be related to what happened or what will be an outcome from this great pandemic. Yes, this is definitely a different viewpoint, or one can say an outlook to life, but it is the truth. I can sum it up by a couple of examples. When this lockdown happened, my husband he reversed his diabetes, surprisingly, by deciding to do something about it because he was made to stop, sit at home, not work, and see where life was taking him. Can't think of a better example of how one can be forced to ponder or look at oneself or at our lives. A creation against a destruction. That was his body. He decided his body is decaying. His life has been all about work or family or procreating or helping, getting food, getting the luxuries met. What is happening to the body? What is happening to him? Spiritually, mentally, physically. Of course, not to mention my children. They followed with their own life-changing decisions to change themselves. Can you not see that as a creation? Another form of creation. What really happened here? What we were made to do was confront. A very strong word. We were made to confront things, situations that we consciously or subconsciously didn't like. We never wanted to see them. It could be like cleaning our rooms, very simple thing, or organizing our shelves. But this time, not because it was a necessity or it was piled up, but because we saw this disorder around us and within us. So, the whole analogy of life, of destruction, of death, of losses, of disruptive times can be altered or can be looked upon as another form or as life beginning again, seeing again with a new viewpoint and understanding what really has it done to us, as all the students or the two students that gave us examples is exactly what this is all about. Some were forced, some took it happily, some took it in fear. There were different emotions involved, but that always has been there. This is what nature, this is what life is all about. It will make us see, it will make us look, it will make us perceive, and it will make us observe. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Am I audible?
Back to you.
Come and do this. इसको करो ना आके. Yes, absolutely. Apologies for the interruption here, but thank you, Dr. Namrita Khurmi, so much. It was very interestingly explained, the cycles of existence. It was really very interesting to hear your viewpoint. Thank you very much. May I now request Dr. Ankita Singh to please present her views, the industry views, which we are waiting to hear. Dr. Ankita Singh. Dr. Ankita Singh, Senior Vice President, Global Head of HR and other enabling function at Cygnus Datamatics. She has several years of progressive experience in managing and leading various aspects of human resources, and it spans over a lot of areas apart from HR, that is administration, travel, and resource management. Welcome, Dr. Ankita Singh.
Thank you so much, Namrita. Thanks a lot for inviting over. Thanks for the time. And I think the topic that has been selected is quite pertinent. Looking at the current time, we we have been talking about disruptive times. We have been living in the phase, and I heard three other speakers, including students and somebody who has recently joined the corporate, which is really nice. And I love the way they express the scenario. I'll be talking more from the corporate angle, where, what we actually saw and how did we survive. And in a way, because I know primarily it's more for students, I will try and add certain things that will hold equal importance, or it'll be a doable thing for you as well. So disruptive times, we are all witnessing, one of those. Every aspect of life has been redefined to survive and sustain in last 16 to 17 months, be it digitized environment, the pace of change, disruptive people behavior, or the most uncertain situation. Every bit has demanded a transformation. And the moment we start talking about disruptive times, the only thing, one thing that would come to our mind, which will help us to be there, is change. I mean, you can't do more than that. You can't do less than that. There's not. This is not the only phase. I would say when we talk about pandemic, we all know, the previous speaker just mentioned, that probably next 10 decades nobody would see what we have witnessed. But this is not the only phase, right? I'm sure last when you heard your professors or teachers talking about when you had other guest faculties in your college, you must have heard that impact of technology got that change. When we started talking about VUCA world, the disruptive times were even then. So disruption always existed in some or the other form. We have seen how much everything around us has changed with the help of technology. So it's not new. Probably now the intensity is much higher with little probability of reduction, because looking at the current situation, I'm sure earlier we were happy with the skill sets we had. Now we know that we have to be proactive. If the institute is going by the curriculum, if the organization is going by the project requirement, each individual is taking charge to invest and do something more which would help the individual in future. So similarly, leaders have started to prepare for unseen, and that has doubled the pace of change. So it has become much more difficult, not just the external factors, but people have started contributing so much, people have started preparing so much, people have started changing so much that the pace is just doubling up. And if at all we are not competitive enough, if at all we do not take these things seriously, probably we will be much behind than we ever thought. Now when we talk about transformational changes, what would you require to be a part of the present in the most fruitful manner and to take care of the future? I believe, be it an individual, a working individual, or a student, or for that matter any organization, I believe that an a person, an organization, a group, they have to take care of 6 A's. I think initially when Shelly ma'am was covering, she used few of those words when she opened the Dean ma'am as well. She added couple of words, and I would just borrow those and add few more, just to tell you what is required to sustain the current scenario, and even in future when we go through such a time which is as disruptive as now, this is what we have to follow. So the 6 A's, the first one is accept. We have to accept that things are changing. We have to accept that we have to change. No matter how great we are, no matter what expertise we have achieved, we have to add on new things, we have to learn new things, we have to understand, and before you understand, you have to accept that you are part of that ecosystem, and to coexist and to sustain, you will have to change. And things those are changing now, there is no guarantee that tomorrow there will be a full stop. It will continuously change. Second is adaptable. A lot of times we are so rigid that we end up waiting, that today time is bad, but I just need to wait for some more time. When things will normalize, whatever I am, I'll be able to survive with that, which is not the truth. You have to be adaptable, you have to change with time. The moment you take a pause, and a long pause, without doing anything, without investing in yourself, you will miss the chance. So adaptable is the second thing which is really important. Third is be attuned. So you must have heard about plug and play model. So we literally have to be one of those. So if at all I have expertise in HR, probably if there are enough jobs in HR, I may survive. But because the world is changing so much, we all know, I'm sure you must have heard or read thousand articles that because of technology people will be losing their job. How attuned we are to the system, how attuned, how informed we are about what things are changing in and around us, and are we prepared? So am I stuck to HR, or I could do 8 more things, or at least 2 more things, so that even if the situation is becoming difficult, I have broader chances of getting job. My opportunities have multiplied because I have invested in various other functions as well. Fourth is agile. Everybody would have heard this word. You have to be as quick as possible. You have to find your solutions immediately. There is no set format. There is no traditional or conventional rule that will help you in surviving. As the thing is changing, as the need is, as the requirement is to meet that, the system, the individual, the approach has to be as agile as possible. Now, the fifth one is aligned. So the connecting the dots is really important when you are working in disruptive times. You have to be aligned to the need of the market. I keep giving an example that there is a possibility that I can type 1,000 words using a typewriter, but when I go to an organization and I say, I saw this job opportunity and I can actually type 1,000 words using a typewriter, the skill set is worth appreciation. 1,000 words a minute, obviously not many of us can do, but who is having a typewriter in the organization at this point in time? And if there is no typewriter, what do they do with your skill set? This is just an example, but there are so many live cases where people have walked in and the job has completely disappeared because of the disruption, and primarily because of the technology that we have accepted as an integral part of our life, from personal to professional. It's all about technology. Last year, this year, throughout the pandemic, organization or people who have survived through their job is primarily because of technology. So we have to be aligned well, in the sense that whatever is happening around us, we should be able to fit in well. Sixth and the last A is aggressive. You have to understand the pace at which things are changing. When I talk about corporates or HR primarily, or any other policy or processes that we have been working on, the processes and policies, or what we thought about students, the freshers who joined us, the joining or their development, their trainings, whatever policies and processes were set before pandemic, they definitely changed by April 2020. But trust me, that was not the stop. After 6 months, again we had to revisit and change everything again, probably after 2 months. And earlier the policies used to get revised at a stretch of, say, 2 years, 3 years, as and when required. But the pace at which we were forced to look at our policies and adapt as early as possible was as less as 1 month, or sometimes 2 weeks as well. So you have to be really aggressive. Things are changing so fast that we can't say that, let others do what they are doing and then we will analyze and then probably we will change. You have to understand your capabilities, you have to understand your limitations, and you need to decide best for you, your team, your organization, yourself, and immediately act on it. And that's what I mean by being aggressive. So I have 5 minutes and I think we're already late, so I'll just conclude this part by saying that the worst part of this entire cycle of disruption is it will never stop. If can I say that maybe in next 2 years we will be in our best position and there will be no changes and there will be nothing to worry? Probably not. And that's the reason I say that's the worst part. The cycle of disruption goes on. The best part is that we are capable of sailing well through most of these situations. We are capable of learning, we are capable of upskilling, we are capable of adjusting, adapting, understanding, and increasing our pace so that we can meet well the need of the time. So my suggestion would be that you need to focus. You first need to categorize, this definitely is the time, this is the disruptive time. Now, what are the factors? Those are out of my control. And what are the factors that are within my control? Something that is out of your control, obviously, that will disturb you to an extent, but don't worry too much about it. Factors that are within your control, like investing in yourself, attaining more knowledge, doing certifications, exploring, building network, lot of things that you can do, or probably everything that you can do with yourself. Please focus on that. And in a way, directly or indirectly, that's the only possible way that will navigate you through this difficult times. So that's my initial take on this. Thanks, Shelley. Thank you. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ankita. Saying very well encapsulated and a very comprehensive picture of the disruptive times. Thank you very much. Indeed, thought provoking ideas and interesting perspectives by each panelist. Now we move on to a panel discussion, and I'd request Shaurya and Anjora and Namrita Khurmi to join as well and come on the screen so that we can initiate a panel discussion amongst all of us. Yes, so we've heard everybody's individual views, and now let's discuss amongst each other. Students have raised their voices, they have expressed their sentiments, work, life, education, integration. Shaurya, in what ways has education helped you to understand and navigate through the crisis? Or maybe I can reframe helped or not so helped.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. Uh, Actually, what I've seen happen now is once I came back home and the lockdown started, the set pattern of things that we have that gives us a routine to hold on to, which orders our life in some ways, that got disrupted in some manner. And I was lucky enough to have my final graduation project going on at that time. So through the submissions that we would have, for which I would have to cram all day, and the interactions that we had with all our teachers, and all the other seminars that the university was offering to us, through that I was actually able to structure my day, which I was not being able to do at my home, because for a long time, 5 years, you stay in a hostel, and every schedule that you have goes out of the window. But then as soon as you come back home, that gives you a structure around which you can plan things, and that is the way it really helped me move forward with things.
Anjora, for you, what's your take on this?
Well, as I spoke earlier in the beginning, integration of the work life with your home life, like as Shaurya said, I was living in a hostel along with the other students. So my home life was very separate from what I was doing in the college. There was a certain time barrier between what I was doing in class and what was happening afterwards. uh, Having such a structure, despite having a structure, we didn't realize how much of time does it take out on an everyday basis to, focus, give your 100% in those 95 hours. And that is something I only realized after this pandemic. This is something I was not prepared for earlier, but it's made me realize how much effort you can actually put in compared to how much we were putting in.
Relatable, Namrita? Work, life, education, integration. So this is the new model of existence. So what is required? Skill excellence, human excellence. How does one navigate through it? This new model of existence.
Definitely skill excellence, because you need to actually, like I said, really understand first of all what's really happened here. A lot now, of course, the second lockdown is registered. In fact, the younger children who were in school, like my daughter who was in the high school 12th boards, they were pretty much still cut off from, they were still in that little box, focused on studies and focused on doing their things. Yes, a very different way. To tell you the truth, my daughter was very happy because it was like, she could cheat truly. But no, yes, it's a completely different understanding. And I think simple thing that life is a learning, and we all have learned our lessons, I'm sure, in a very, very big way. As a mother, yes, a lot of time I got to spend with them. As a wife, I saw a different role altogether of a husband. And as a work scenario, my children or my students or whoever will attach with me had to be connected, had to be in sync with me more now, because they're not able to meet me, and they're going through themselves a big series of mental breakdowns as well as seeing their families. So a lot of responsibility got distributed for one person into multiple channels, and a lot of various, in army or even in the navy, we have this designation or we have these various hats. Like, you can recognize a railway person working with different hats. So imagine we all had to wear a lot of hats at one time. But we do, but we just sort of recognize these hats, and we literally had to wear them. So that's how I saw it as, and that's how I, forward it as.
Yes, Dr. Ankita, we all wear different hats and juggle different hats. So, when you wear your industry hat and look at the millennial generation who will be tomorrow's industry leaders, what do you think and expect should be the purpose of education? Should it be re-examined and widened, and so that the students can be prepared well to enter to the industry?
See, there are two parts to it. So when we talk about actually three. So one, we talk about technical knowledge, right? So if at all I am hiring a software engineer, I would expect the college to ensure that they have focused on the skill sets, the basic skill sets that are required. And I think most of the institutes are doing a great job there. The second part is the interpersonal skills or the human skills or the soft skills. I think that's one part where there is a gap because it's assumed that students will learn the art of communication or the art of collaboration when they join the organization. Though many organizations would do that, but the expectation is that they should have the basic connect on those subjects as well. And many institutes, they have gone ahead and they have their own clubs, they have their own ways of ensuring that these students experience these things while they are within the campus, so that they can do really well when they are part of the organization. Third thing is the overall gap. We at least that's my expectation, and that's what we have been doing in our organization. We ensure that the student goes for an internship program at least once in the entire tenure, wherein the expectation is there are a lot of institutes where they are focusing on 1 year of education out of 2 years, and the second year, which is 70% more off on the job training, where they are actually part of the organization. And thanks to technology, and I should not be using thanks to pandemic, but yes, because of pandemic, now that everybody is working from home, the opportunities have widened up, where students can actually connect and they can become a shadow resource, or they can be a full timer while they are working or while they are studying. So those options are available. A lot of organizations are open to do it. It's just that the acceptance and probably little more openness from the student side as well as the institution side has to be reflected. And I'm happy to say and happy to see that we are already witnessing a lot of our institutions working in that direction, and that change is already quite uh, visible. And we already have 50 students. I think we crossed that number as well last to last month, where those students are studying, but at the same time they are working on life projects. It becomes so easy for them to understand the organization, and at the same time it becomes much more easy for the organizations to immediately hire them, because they are already in a way ready for the for the organization and for the project.
Right, we have students here, Anjura and Shaurya. You just heard Dr. Ankita Singh. If you have any quick questions or anything to ask her, clarify, suggest, please feel free to do so in this panel whenever you come to it. All right. So now we just heard Ankita's view on what is the expectation. So what do you students expect? The leaders, how should they change? They also have to be the students of change. Leaders have to be the students of change. So in what ways the student mind thinks? Anjora?
Uh, well, I think the biggest challenge during this pandemic as students that we faced is reaching a certain expectation while accommodating ourselves and learning how the online learning, how to function with it, how to adapt to the new modes along with your teachers who themselves are figuring and navigating the new waters.
Right.
Learning and experiencing ki, okay, this is a certain this is a certain expectation, this is the level of work that they require, this is what they expect to see when we say ki, okay, we have done this assignment and we're this is our final product. Learning and improving on digital platforms and adapting to it is something that we were learning. So I think the for me the biggest insecurity in this time is not knowing how much or what level of excellence do the people expect. It's also difficult to develop because everybody has a different niche of excellence. Everybody, maybe somebody's good at editing, maybe somebody's good with colors, maybe somebody knows what is the correct font. And as like a person who works a lot with aesthetics, these are very important aspects to look out for. So knowing and trying to judge what is expected was the difficulty. So we were
Yes.
hoping, so the biggest, doubt is, but in the pandemic, as Dr. Ankita said, there have been bigger opportunities for us to go and experience. The biggest understanding is that we will work and we will fail in these things. And through our failures, we will learn, ki, okay, so this is what we have to do next. This is what we have to improve on. And I think that's the confrontation that each student has to face now, that you will fail at some point but you will get better. The online learning is like a safety net now. You won't, it's not real life. You know people will forget about it. Only the people in the meeting will know. So that's, yeah.
Sharia, Anjura said a very interesting thing, and it's a fact that there's a mutual learning process which is there between the students and the teachers, because probably somewhere you are better off in digital technology. So, did you also experience that the faculty, is probably trying to learn some new ways from you?
Yes, in some ways that's true, in some ways that's not true. uh, what really happened was, in at the point when the lockdown came in, and I was working on my project. So at that time we have uh, maybe one or two teachers who we are really working with. We don't have proper classes. So in that manner, I used to have an excuse when I did not have enough work. I would simply say to my teacher that, sir, I'm not feeling well, I cannot come to see you. And that would be a very good enough excuse. But with digital, actually things have changed, because if I say I'm not feeling well, the teacher can actually tell me to call him up 2 hours later. So there is no escape really for you. And in a way, that helped me actually, because at some points I became a bit lazy with my project, and that became a very good checkup on me. So my guide, Mr. Sagar Gupta, was always on me, and he was always pushing me in that manner. So that really helped me.
Okay. So we're just trying to discover, Namrita, that, disruptive times, some things were disrupted, most of the things were disrupted, some things continued. We are talking of resilience. What exactly would you like to say about resilience, which is really talked about? What has continued and how can we be more resilient?
See, if you would just understand, we as human race, we're very resilient. Simple as that. No matter what happens, no matter whatever happens in the world, we will survive. Simple as that. A rat survives, any human being or any creature that survives. That is the biggest drive for us, right? And whenever any such calamity or any such suppression or oppression is brought about on us, the first thing one really comes about and one brings up is the resilience in you. How much can you carry on? How much can you go on? Of course people break down, of course you have mental breakdowns, you have physical breakdowns, everything is there. But there is an innate native ability of every human being to be resilient. And no matter how much, in any child you see, a little baby wants to catch hold of that little ball right there. It will continue to persist trying to get it. It's the same case as that. And how this has affected us, you see how we've come about. We've got the second wave. We've been sitting around in our houses again. Now, this time, everybody was prepared. This time, in a way, like not really, but yes, it was like a rehearsal drill that was already done. And now everybody had their setup. It's easy for literally now, even in regular situations. I have my friends and my work itself, my office, decided to work from home. Even now, when the lockdowns opened up, once a week, twice a week, whatever. They just think it's more easy, more because still Zoom meetings are happening, still everything is online. So yes, it has brought about a lot of more resilience in people, a lot of more will to do more, because it's a very old saying: when you get hungry or when anything is taken away from you, you really have the value of it more. So a lot of people were left hungry. We're talking about the educated lot. Let's talk about the 80%, which is the uneducated, which is really, I mean, maybe 70%, which is really striving on basic necessities. See them. They're so resilient. They are carrying on. They're getting back on getting their jobs. Whatever job they might want, they're doing it. So yes, that's my viewpoint of it. I don't know.
Absolutely, absolutely, Namrita. Resilience we gave a sense of understanding a little more. Dr. Ankita, now we also are talking of recalibrating, reimagining, redefining, re-examining. So I asked the students about their expectations of the leaders. How, as a leader industry, do you think you need to kind of change or have the new skill set?
Yeah, I think is the word now. So
Yes.
re-evaluation, re-change, re-put re in front of any word, and that word hold importance as on today. Now, I agree. I think leaders also have to change when we look at people who are working with us, be it the full timers who have been associated with us for a very long time, or the millennials that you just spoke about. So, see, we have started using technology, and earlier, more of our policies and processes or the approach was general, right? So, we had these blanket policies and processes, and we thought that that would work for anybody and everybody. Now, everybody is working from home, students are studying from home, they are doing their internship from home. So, we need to understand that yes, we have adapted to a level that technology is everything, but we have to understand each individual. And I think everybody would have heard the word empathetic. It's not that it never existed, but I think we started using it intentionally and more often in last couple of months. So each leader has to be empathetic, and when I say that, I mean that they have to understand everybody's situation. They have to understand each individual as self, not as a clutter or a group. People first is second thing that we have accepted when the pandemic started. Again, it always remained in the system, but because of the pandemic, suddenly well-being and health of people was the prime consideration, and that will remain as is. Leaders, when we are dealing with millennials, I think the best thing about millennials is they are in and around purpose. Whatever they are doing, they want a purpose to be defined very clearly. And I don't see, I've heard from a lot of people that millennials, to work with millennials is a great challenge, but I don't think so. I have set of people working with me, and trust me, it's a delight to work with them, because if you are clear in your communication, if you tell them that this is what is expected and this is what the value that you can bring onto the table, and at the same time this is what organization would be able to do that for you, people accept, understand, and they flourish. So it has to be communicated really well. And the last thing that I think that students who are joining organization, they expect from leader that have a growth path for us. The organization definitely is growing exponentially. I want to be a part of that game, but what's next? Where will you take me? And that has to be clearly chalked out and at the same time communicated to the students, and ensure the defined journey which is communicated at the start is taken care of. So these are a few things, in case if those are missing from leaders in the organization, we have to work on. But I think otherwise, most of the leaders who are dealing with millennials or who are dealing with freshers, or even for that matter, our employees. These few things everybody has to keep in mind, keeping the pandemic, the VUCA world, or the uncertainties that we see now, and our project for later life as well.
Right, Shaurya. So, what Dr. Ankita Singh's understanding of the leader is, her perception is, do you have anything to say to that, or the gap
I
assessment? Yes.
Yes. So coming to the communication part, I do have a question for Dr. Ankita. So me and my friends, we just joined the workforce, and what's happening now is different offices have different models of how they're tracking the work that you're doing. So, in my own company, we are made to sit with have an online meeting with our leader once in a day. At any point of time, they call you and tell you. But some companies, they have a more task-based approach. So they give you a task, and when you're finished with it, you have a deadline. So you're supposed to reach out to the leader in that manner. So I'm not sure why, but neither of us is happy with it. The ones who are given a task based approach and the ones who are given a time based approach. So there is some gap which we are not able to put our finger on. So I would like to ask Dr. Ankita, what do you think about that? Why is that happening?
So, see, I mean, somewhere you have to fall. Either it is tracking, but micromanagement, I don't think anybody will ever enjoy that. What are you doing now? What you will do next? By when you will complete the task? So, the first case that you shared, I don't think people would ever be happy with that. At least I would not be happy. Second is the task based thing, where I ask you that, this is a task and I want this to be done by tomorrow. I'm not going to follow up. You just complete this task. Once you are done, get back to me. There shouldn't be a problem in this approach unless the leader fails to discuss. So, have I enabled you properly? Whatever is required to do the task, has that part been taken care? Second, did I close the communication? Did I check with you that will you be able to do it by tomorrow evening, or you need more time? Third, will you be able to do it alone, or you will need support from other team members as well? Fourth, I may not follow up tomorrow, but do you think my help or my interference will anywhere be required? Do you need me to review and then work on the remaining 70%? So all these are part of communication, and that's exactly what I meant when I say that more than generalized, the approach has to be personalized. There are a lot of people in my team who would say, I know because I have already done this task in past and I would be able to do it. Just let me know this is the time and I'll deliver it. There are a lot of people who would say, I will do this bit, then I'll come back to you. Just give me 5 minutes, let me do it, and then I'll work on the remaining portion. So that's say if a leader is missing that, there would be a problem. Otherwise, the task based format with a proper communication and a consent from the other person is generally a hit, and I would definitely recommend the second one.
All right. Uh, Namrita, as Dr. Ankita had also said in the previous, when she was talking, giving her views, she'd also talked of the biggest disruptors being technology, whether it's artificial intelligence, robotics, or whatever, for example. But somewhere one has to be mindful of how and why, the human is using the machine, the human and the machine, the interface, the interaction, the mindfulness. Can you talk a little about that?
Yes, definitely. And actually, I would really like to, I completely agree with Dr. Ankita's point about communication. See, everything actually comes to the concept or the idea or an understanding of communication. What really do we understand of communication? Communication is what, talking? Is it really listening? Is it just talking or just listening? So there is a complete understanding of what really communication is all about. And that's why, and once you understand that, you can actually really understand that we communicate with everything, not just people. If I'm talking to you, if I'm saying something to you, are you really getting exactly what I'm saying? Do you get a mental image picture of it? Do you really get a duplication of it? That is exactly what communication is. I'm the source. I'm telling you something. You are the effect. You are getting something from me. Are you really getting that picture? Once you understand that cycle, you have got my duplication. You have understood what I said. Then you communicate back with me. Now take that to technology. Do I understand or am I able to communicate with this computer? Why? May not, maybe not, because I don't understand some programs in it. I don't understand a lot of things about it. Like technology savvy, I'm not. But am I able to really type in the right words? Simple as that. If you take it from a simple computer typing on the keyboards to a human mind, it's the same thing. Are we able to really say or take out words from our mouth which the other person can really understand? And the biggest thing that we lack is intention. Are we really intending to tell our voice across or what our thoughts are? Like an example I'd given some time back, that I want this car to drive. I want to drive this car, but if I have no intention of driving it very well, I'm going to drive it pretty badly. I am going to actually spoil the clutch, or maybe spoil the brakes, or do something because the intention of communicating with the car is not there. This is what the whole thing is. And then, if I don't have the intention, am I able to control it? That's where the control and uncontrol comes in. Does the human can the human mind, or can we control the artificial intelligence, or is the artificial intelligence going to control us? Think about it like that. We create the biggest of things. Atom bomb was made, a lot of new things were made, but were we able to control it? Were we able to actually really apply it or use it in the right direction? What is Japan doing now? It's using its nuclear, armaments and everything for electricity for its basic life. But is it really able to control it? So a lot of things come into this whole game of control, uncontrol, understanding, and basically being the master of it. By the end of it, always remember we made it. We are the master creators of all the material things that we see. I'm not talking about God here, I'm talking about material stuff: computers, cars, artificial intelligence, nuclear bombs, atom bombs. So we have to know how to control it. That's what I think. I don't know how many agree, but
Yes.
yeah.
So, any reflections on what the kind of questions and the kind of perspective Namrita has on interface of human and machine? Anjora, would you like to say something?
Yeah, I think Dr. Namrata has highlighted a very important aspect, which we all realize is communication in this time. Uh, Another thing we realized during the pandemic is how lacking a conversation and communication is without the physical understanding. You might not realize it, but you read the body language of the person standing in front of you when you're talking to them. They carry a certain air around them when you have a conversation, or when you meet somebody, we call it a vibe. All of these things guide the conversation a lot, and that's how you frame your ideas. Okay, so it feels the emotion of the conversation feels like this. These are the words I will choose now to communicate myself, to better express myself. My biggest asset has been that when I write about things, I try my best to communicate what I'm feeling so that my reader understands, okay, this is what they're trying to express, this is what the person writing is feeling this. So I think now during this online connection, when everybody's communicating through social media, through meeting, just only seeing the person's face, you can only see above my shoulder. You don't know, what's happening behind me, or if there's something else. If I'm fidgeting, you can't read my body language other than my face, and that too depends on your camera quality. So there's we have to find a new language of communication. Discover a new way to better express ourselves. And that's I think that's one of the things we have heavily reflected on, and I'm glad to see the conclusions and the new ways in which people are communicating with each other.
Yes. Anjura, your sharing just touched the core, and it brings to the point of a very important point in these disruptive times is of emotional well-being, which is extremely important. Dr. Ankita also talked about empathy, which is related to, being emotionally taking care of others, how to nurture people, your team, etc. So, Shaurya, how do you think that emotional well-being, in what ways are you keeping yourself absolutely, if not absolutely, somewhat emotionally well?
Okay, that is a question that really it touches me in a way, because somewhere around December, I actually had a period when I thought I had some physical problems, but they were actually not physical problems. They were problems that were being caused by my mind. So for a short period of time, I had that thing. I would get breathless, and I would feel a bit of anxiety, and I thought I was having some physical condition. So I went to a doctor, and he was the one who actually told me that you're. So what I was doing was I was taking the whole period as a kind of a summer vacation. So I did not have anything fixed in a day. I would do anything when I wanted to. But what that was doing was, uh, what I realized is I need to have some kind of a structure to my day. So I had gotten out of college. So I was thinking, I have all this free time in this world now. I have a fantastic excuse of not doing anything. But that is where I realized the importance of having some structure to your day. This word routine that all of us hate so much, at least all my friends do, uh, it's actually very important for you to have a structured life. It keeps you well in that way. So for your mental well-being, and also now that I found out it also affects your physical well-being, it's important to have a structure to your day. So I think that takes care of a lot of your mental well-being.
Yes, and taking care of mental well-being of your team is also very important, Dr. Ankita. Any specific strategy and actions that you take as a leader?
I think Namrata, Anjora, Shaurya, they all spoke about the same thing. You need to connect and communicate really well. So you don't have to overdo anything. Not everybody would need a helping hand every time. You may assume that difficult is the situation, and that's why I should walk up to somebody and just help them. Instead, you need to connect with them in such a manner that they should be comfortable enough to come back to you and tell you that this is the problem and this is where I seek help. And for that, you have to have that genuine comfort level where people should not be forced to share their issues, but they openly say that this is the practical problem and this is where I seek help or a solution to this one. And that's what we are doing. And we have a lot of counseling and training programs for our managers, that how they can handle their team well, and which is primarily more to do with communication and a regular connect that they have to maintain beyond the work requirements.
Right, and Namrita, as a trained counselor, looking at mind matters. So, what do you want to talk about this?
You see, what I understood when I started having mostly younger children coming to me, and mostly they were distressed, they were anxious, they had the biggest thing that what was lacking was not being able to be heard of. When you're not heard of, when you want to say a point and the other person is not able to understand it, especially coming from parents, coming from maybe friends, schools, colleges, all over. So what is it that they're not able to, what you're not able to actually hear or be, speak about it, and the other person is not understanding it? That was the biggest problem that came about. And like I said, we're all over this place. In mentally, we're in 10 different places. We're not really sitting and focusing. Yes, when you're doing a project or when you're doing in class, you're trying to be where you are. But the whole idea was actually that the focus and the understanding of the mind is not here. You're either thinking about what you're going to do in the future, or a lot of them we're stuck in the past, thinking about what things never worked out for us. So the whole mind program that which I go about is to bring them to the present time, to actually see. Because if today is what you don't recognize, you truly cannot actually see the future, and you truly can't be really working in the future. And I actually really agreed and liked what Anjora said was about the observation part about human connect. So there is a word called, a very coined word called obnosis. I'm using it here. It actually means observe the obvious, which, it's simple. If I would tell you, what do you see on me? So you would probably tell me, eyes, nose, or maybe an experience, or maybe you would see my age. And then I would ask you, do you really see my experience, or do you really see my age? Or you would tell me, I see your 1 year, and maybe I might be having or your ears when I have only 1 year this side. So the idea is to really see what you see there, right there in the picture. Do you see my nose? Do you really see my eyes? Do you really see my face? That's called observing what is obviously there, not really what is around or what your experience tells you to see. Often we see things by our experience. We look at people, we judge people, we listen to people by our own experience. We're not really looking at them because they're just there. So that is one of the biggest breakthrough or understanding that came about, to really actually observe. And the moment you start observing, the moment you start seeing things, like for example, you walk into the room, how many of you are able to really see what is there in the room? Right now, sitting, how many of you have you seen really what is around in Dr. Ankita's backdrop? Also listening to her, what is behind Anjora's backdrop? What is behind Shwara's backdrop? Your or mine? That's actually observation. And that is actually really an analytical state where you can actually be, listen, and see everything that's around you. That's what.
Thank you. Thank you. That was very beautifully expressed. And disruption, as they say, creates or makes way for experimentation, innovation, newness. Um, I would like to ask all the panelists, now what? What do you see? How is it going? How do we steer work, life, education ahead, the roadmap, the future models and strategies? What comes to your mind? Dr. Ankita.
My take is I don't know. If at all you ask me today, I don't know where we are headed, what will happen tomorrow. But one thing I know for sure, which Namrata also said, that we are capable of, fighting through all these situations. So focusing on the things that we can control, investing well in ourselves, doing a lot of research and knowing what is happening in and around us, understanding the predictions those are made on the basis of data, living by that, and doing proper investments, taking that as a base for yourself, for your life. I think that's the only thing that I would suggest, because that's the only thing that I'm doing as of now. I don't know what the future holds other than the predictions that people are making on the basis of data and the studies that they are doing.
Well, prediction sounds very definite, and we really don't know what is in store for us yet. Human minds plans, thinks, strategizes. Anjura, what do you think on this?
Well, uh, I think the biggest transition from, going from a complete online work mode where you're constantly working, because all your work is on the screen, it's all accessible to you at the same point. I think what I would hope for people to do once they're out of, this situation is, start setting boundaries for themselves in this integration of work life balance. There used to be a balance, but now it's all integrated. You're working and you're taking care of your household at the same time. I really hope people start setting boundaries for themselves. Okay, now I'm done working, now I will take care of myself, now I will do things for myself instead of work towards this is the time for doing work, this is the time for myself. Because people tend to lose themselves a lot in what they're doing, and it happens a lot. I've seen it happen a lot in professional lives, and even with my work I tend to not take care of my body. I sometimes I forget to eat for the entire day because I'm working on this one assignment which I want to finish by the end of the day. And that's where the people around you come into importance. Is that they remind you that you have to take care of yourselves as well. So I really hope people learn from this, that they have to say at some point enough is enough. I cannot, while I have to do a certain amount of work, while there's a certain experience and a level of excellence required, I should take time out for myself to take care of myself. That's what I'm expecting out of people once this is over.
What will you add on to that, Shaurya?
Uh, Personally, I can boil down what I've learned into two main points here. First is, it's this whole disruption thing has given me an opportunity to just slow down and to look around me as to what am I doing, why am I doing it. I was so stuck in how I'm going to do it. I had a whole plan. I'm going to go for this to this university for this course, then I'm going to come back and do this and that. A lot of that has changed completely. So in a way, it's a good thing because you get to see what you're actually doing. Are you doing what you really want to do, or are you doing what you're expected to do? So that's one question that it has really brought upon me. And the second one is regarding the future. uh, as everybody said, we cannot predict it, but one thing that I do see for certain is uh, the role of digital media, the role of machines in our life is gonna increase. And in any way, it has just been expedited, is what I think. It would have happened in 5 years from now, if not now. So I think it's important for us, uh, including me. I can say from my own experience, I was very, very avert to the idea of doing things digitally. I like doing things by hand. I like making drawings, physical models, and everything. But I think there's a lot of opportunities to find what you really want to do, even on the digital media. There's a lot of things that we haven't really explored yet. So now that I don't have any more physical options, I've started delving into those options now. So I think that's one thing that we should all embrace, and within that we can find ways in which we like to work, and not necessarily what anybody else is telling you to do. So that's, I
All
think,
right.
important.
Okay, Namrita, your final thoughts.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. The most beautiful thing that perhaps very few must have noticed, as life takes you, experiences, problems, oppressions, all blah blah blah, we by age we start reflecting and we start introspecting, right? Maybe beyond 30 we will start looking at things. But this disruptive time has actually made the youth actually sit and think, stop and think. I mean, can you imagine their age talking like that about introspection, about thinking, about observing, about looking? No. I mean, I am surprised when a 13-year-old comes and tells me, I want to do this program which is going to help me communicate better, or it's going to help me in my academics, or it's going to help me understand my friends and my family better. I'm like, I didn't care at 13. You understand? So this is the huge change that has brought about. It has brought about this entire world. It's not just in India. I have people all over the world connecting with me, and their children want to actually sit and think. They want a better future. They don't want this to happen to their future like this. So, what ads we used to see about future generations, about saving the oil, saving the earth, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we have seen it in live now. This is a real live example that's happened. We are really going to go down in history, definitely. I'm pretty proud of it, not really happily, but yes, my children, our children are going to really be more wiser, more aware, because awareness is something that is an ability and a skill. We are all aware, but we forget about it. It's a skill that has to be developed, and it got developed. So I'm positive. I know I've lost a lot of my family and friends in this whole pandemic, but yeah, we've got to move ahead. We've got to actually evolve. That's what evolution is all about. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Truly spoken like a parent, also. So, thank you very much. Very enriching panel discussion, very candid expressions, reflections, perspectives from all the panelists, the young panelists, not so young panelists, also. Thank you very much, Anjura Khatri, Shaurya Chauhan, Namrita Khurmi, and Dr. Ankita Singh for your valuable inputs and time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
It was wonderful listening to Azura and Shaurya. Thank you so much. And thanks, Namrata, for sharing insightful thoughts.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank you,
you
Shelly
too.
ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Shelly.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Bye. Thank you, kids. Really nice listening to you both.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Well, the dialogue continues, and this was interesting, thought provoking, and perspectives we got to know. What is disrupted, what continues, in what ways education has helped, what is the purpose of education to re examine, recalibrate resilience, home, life, work, integration. A lot of perspectives were thrown up by the panelists, the student, industry, and the parent. But as they say, the show has just begun. So we look forward to diverse stakeholders, more voices often not heard in the upcoming session in just about half an hour at 12 noon. We again gather for a theme and a session on collaboration and inclusivity. Thank you very much, and we look forward to listening to you.